Texas can win a national championship today. Will the Longhorns get it done? We'll talk about it on today's episode of Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are locked on to the Texas Longhorns. I'm your host, BK Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin native, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and tell your Longhorn friends about Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. We will preview the Mammoth recruiting weekend coming up for Texas football. We'll also give you the latest transfer portal news for Texas baseball later in today's show. But we've got to start off giving some love to the Texas softball team that took game one of the Women's College World Series final last night against Texas Tech. 2-1, the final score. A lot of controversy in last night's game, but the Longhorns were able to overcome a horrific call and find a way to once again beat Nigeria Kennedy and Texas Tech. What a game it was. Texas was down 1-0 in the bottom of the sixth inning. We'll start with the good and then we'll get to the bad. Caden Henry started a two-out rally for the Longhorns in that sixth inning. She hits a two-out single, steals second base. Mia Scott reaches on an infield single. She advances to second. So the Longhorns 4 outs away from dropping game one and going into tonight with their backs against the wall, needing to win to force a winner-take-all game three. They get this two-out rally going. They get runners on second and third with 2 outs. And Reese Atwood, Texas's best player, the All-American catcher, comes to the plate. And I'm sure you know this by now, but Texas Tech tries to intentionally walk Reese Atwood. And they don't have the Major League Baseball rules where you can just hold up the number 4 and the batter drops the bat and jogs over to first base. No, you actually have to throw 4 balls out of the zone to get the intentional walk in college softball. Wonder if that rule is going to change based on what happened last night. Good news for Texas. The rule hadn't been changed before last night. Nigeria Kennedy, the Texas Tech pitcher who had done just about everything right. 2 of her first 3 pitches were high, but they weren't really outside. Normally, when you're throwing an intentional ball, you're throwing it way up and way away to where there is no chance for the batter to make contact, right? Well, it's a 3-0 count. Reese Atwood had seen a couple of the prior pitches, and she's thinking, you know what? Maybe I can get to one of these. The 3-0 pitch, it was high, but it was right over the plate, and Reese Atwood caught Texas Tech napping. She swings and grounds one through the hole on the left side of the Texas Tech infield. If the Tech infielders were paying attention, maybe they're able to make a play on the grounder, but everybody was just kind of sitting and waiting, and we've got 4 balls here, nothing to see. We'll start paying attention when the next batter comes to the plate. But Reese Atwood with the 100 awareness play, the 200 IQ play. She swings at that 3-0 pitch, ground ball through the hole on the left side, 2-run score. Texas takes the 2-1 lead. And Tegan Cavan, who was once again masterful inside the circle for the Horns, she closes the door in the top of the 7th, gets those final 3 outs to give Texas the game 1 win. What a moment for Reese Atwood. And again, we talked about this yesterday when we were previewing this series. Nigeria Kennedy, one of the best pitchers in college softball. And I don't know if y'all heard, but she's making $1 million this year at Texas Tech. I mean, that was like the Colt McCoy and Jordan Shipley are roommates on the TV broadcast. Y'all remember back in the day when those guys were at Texas, how every TV announcer would say that like 15 times during every game? That was what Beth Mowens and company were talking about all night last night, how Nigeria Kennedy was college softball's first ever $1 million player and how instrumental she was to the Texas Tech turnaround. She's a stud. We talked about Texas needing to capitalize on every opportunity they could last night because she doesn't make a lot of mistakes. She made one there. Reese Atwood delivered, and Texas gets the job done. A little tired about the Nigeria Kennedy conversation because people aren't talking enough about Texas's ace, Tegan Cavan, who once again outdueled the $1 million woman. It's the 4th time in the last year that Tegan Cavan has beaten Nigeria Kennedy. It happened twice when Kennedy was at Stanford in the Women's College World Series last year. It happened once in the regular season when Texas beat Texas Tech 2-1 in Austin a couple of months ago. And again, it happened last night. Tegan Cavan gave up 0 earned runs. It should have been 0 total runs. And here's where we talk about the controversy. Thankfully, this did not cost Texas a game. If it did, every Longhorn fan would have been incredibly ticked, and rightfully so. The 5th inning, 0-0 game. Texas Tech has a runner on first with 2 outs. The runner tries to steal second. Reese Atwood throws her out by a mile, but Texas is called for obstruction. They said shortstop Leanne Good impeded the base runner's ability to get to second base. Even though she was out by a mile, they overturned the call. They called her safe. The next batter for Texas Tech hits an RBI single to put the Red Raiders on the board. You know, by letter of the law, there's some random technicality and some subsection of some rule that says, and maybe Texas wasn't doing what it was supposed to do, and that obstruction could have been called in that spot. And apparently, there was also a rule that said the umpires could override that rule if they felt like the obstruction didn't affect the outcome of the play. Anybody who saw that play knows it didn't affect the outcome of that play. That Tech base runner was out by 10 feet. I mean, it wasn't even close. Common sense should have prevailed in that spot. That runner should have been out. Everybody knew she was out, yet for some reason, the call gets overturned. Tech gets that new life. They end up scoring a run in that same inning. And you're sitting here thinking, oh my God, with Kennedy on the mound, like that's really how we're going to lose this game. And that's really how we're going to maybe lose the national championship after everything we've done to get here. Some ridiculous replay review is going to cost us a title. And, well, Reese Atwood said, ball don't lie. And maybe the softball gods helped out a little bit for Texas at the bottom of the 6th inning on that 2-run single. That was a bad look for college softball. It was a total ump show. I mean, there was an interference call that went Texas's way in the 7th inning. Not nearly as impactful as the one that led to Tech's only run of the game, but there was another long review and a horrible missed call by the umpire. So I'm not going to sit here and act like I know every rule in college softball. I will say if there is a rule that says that Tech base runner should have been safe on that steal in the 5th inning, that rule needs to be changed. You can't change it before game 2 tonight. It needs to be changed this offseason because I felt like the umps were on my TV screen more than the players were last night. These are the most watched college softball games of the year. It's a bad look for the sport if you're having the umpires decide a national championship series game. That's a bad bit. Total joke. Thankfully, Texas was able to overcome it and find a way to get the win. But yeah, Tegan Cavan, there needs to be more people talking about her. That was the only run she gave up last night, but it wasn't earned. So it's now 4 Women's College World Series appearances for Cavan in 2025. She has given up a total of 0 earned runs against Florida, Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Texas Tech. 4 of the best teams in the sport all season long. She's pitched in every game that Texas has played in so far in Oklahoma City. She has yet to give up an earned run. And what a job by her in the 1st inning. Tech loaded the bases with no outs. Speaking of Kennedy, she's the cleanup hitter for the Red Raiders. She's a monster. And she comes up, bases loaded, nobody out in the 1st inning with the chance to, I don't want to say break it open, but with how good of a pitcher she is, if Tech puts up a crooked number in that top of the 1st, the Longhorns would have been in some serious, serious trouble. Instead, Cavan induces a 5-4-3 double play, and then she gets the next batter to ground out. So she gets out of the jam with no runs allowed, and she started dealing from that moment on. She has been incredible for Texas. It's really 2 Women's College World Series in a row that she's been damn near unhittable, and she is a big part of why Texas is 1 win away from the first national championship in program history. Game 2 tonight at 7 o'clock Central Time. If Texas wins, they will be national champs. If Texas loses, it'll be a winner-take-all game 3 tomorrow. I assume Kennedy's going to pitch for Texas Tech. She's thrown every pitch for the Red Raiders so far in OKC. We'll see. Maybe it'll be Mac Morgan for Texas again with Tegan Cavan coming out of the pen. That's my prediction. That's what we saw in Texas's win on Monday against Tennessee, and it worked out. Texas pitched a shutout and a 2-0 victory. Morgan went 4 innings. Cavan did the last 3. Texas looked great. If Texas would have lost last night, I would have said Cavan probably starts tonight. but Texas, you don't want to play with your food. You don't want to go to a sudden death game 7 type of matchup tomorrow. But I think they'll try to at least give Kavan a few innings off, and then if the Horns are in a close game, maybe tied, maybe Texas has a 1-run lead, I bet they'll bring her in out of the bullpen to try to close the door on Texas Tech. Hopefully, we get a dog pile tonight in OKC. Shout out to Texas softball. What a gritty, resilient win yesterday and a fun one to watch, despite the total ump show. An impressive performance by Mike White and company. Hook 'em horns, baby. Let's get it done tonight. All right, we'll take your thoughts. Comment below your thoughts on last night's game and your predictions for Game 2 of the Women's College World Series Final. Let's shift gears here. Not sure if y'all have heard, but this weekend is a pretty big one for the future of Texas Longhorn football. We will tell you about some of the biggest names that are headed to Austin and update you on some key recruiting battles in the class of 2026 coming up next right here on Locked On Longhorns. But first, speaking of great sporting events happening in Oklahoma City tonight, how about game 1 of the NBA Finals? That's right. It gets going this evening, Indiana at Oklahoma City. And our friends at FanDuel are giving you more ways to win on the NBA Finals than ever before. So many ways to bet, so many ways to win. If you think Oklahoma City is going to take care of business tonight, you can bet on it. If you're calling the upset, if you think the Pacers steal game 1 on the road, you can bet that as well. You can bet before the game and you can bet after the ball is tipped. We've got same game parlays. We've got performance trends. We've got anything you need to cash in, not only on tonight's game 1, but on every game in these NBA finals. It has been an incredibly entertaining NBA postseason to this point, and the drama builds even more with the championship series coming up. We will see what happens. I'm on Oklahoma City tonight. I think they're going to take game 1, and I think they're going to cover the 9.5-point line that I'm seeing on FanDuel. Super easy to use, and right now our friends at FanDuel are hooking you up. If you're a new customer, head over to FanDuel.com. You place a $5 bet, that bet wins. You're going to get $200 in bonus bets just like that. Again, FanDuel.com, you make an account, you place a $5 bet. If your first bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets just like that with our friends at FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. This weekend is the first of 3 monster recruiting weekends for Texas football in the month of June. As of right now, 13 players are set to visit campus this weekend, all of them in the class of 2026. So this current recruiting cycle, and that 13 number can change. It can change today, it can change tomorrow, it could change Saturday. Who knows? It often does fluctuate a little bit leading up to these big official visit weekends. But as we're recording here on Thursday, again, the number is 13 who will be in town. On today's show, I'm not going to talk about all 13. We're going to talk about 4 of the top targets for Texas in the class of 2026. And we will provide a couple of updates on where the Horns stand in these recruitments, starting with number 1, 5-star defensive lineman Lamar Brown from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Yes, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, home of the LSU Tigers. This will be a tough one for Texas to win, but it's one that Texas will do everything in its power to win. Why? Well, Lamar Brown is the top-ranked defensive lineman in the country for the class of 2026. He's the number 8 player overall, 6'4", 285 pounds. I mean, a consensus 5-star on all of the recruiting sites. He is a true war daddy and a difference maker on the defensive front. If you're Texas, hey, don't give up. The Longhorns went into the state of Georgia, into Bulldog territory, and took the top-ranked defensive lineman in the nation in the class of 2025 with Justice Terry. Could they do the same thing in Louisiana? Texas has had some success recruiting the Bayou State in recent years. Arch Manning, that's one example right there. Can Texas get this done? We will see. An insider update on where things stand. Alan Clark, the new edge coach for Texas, who came over from Ohio State, he has been making a lot of noise in this recruitment over the last month or so. When Clark was an assistant coach at Southern University, he actually gave Lamar Brown his first ever offer. Brown hasn't forgotten that. So that's good news. There's a relationship between those guys that dates back a couple of years now, and this was a late visit that Lamar Brown added. Instead of Florida State, he chose to come to Texas, or I should say he's choosing to come to Texas this weekend. LSU's obviously very much in the mix. I think most people think he's going to end up at LSU. Miami's involved as well. But hey, he's here this weekend. Texas has been making some waves in this recruitment over the last 4 weeks or so. We'll see. We'll see what happens this weekend. How about another defensive lineman, also from the state of Louisiana, four-star Dylan Berryman from the Monroe area of the Bayou State, 6'1", 6'2", about 305 pounds, a four-star in the class of 26. He is the 22nd ranked defensive line in the class, according to the composite rankings. This guy's got some pretty big offers. LSU, Oregon, USC, A&M, plenty of others, dozens of overall offers right now for Dylan Berryman. He came last summer for the elite camp that Texas hosted, and he really impressed the Longhorn coaching staff. So this is a guy that Texas has been in on for a while. An insider update, this felt like a Texas LSU battle for a while. Again, a Louisiana kid, you understand why. But apparently, a surprise school has closed the gap a little bit in this recruitment. How about Purdue? You don't see a lot of head to head battles for top Texas targets with Purdue, but apparently the Boilermakers have been making a strong case for Dylan Berryman. So something to watch there. I feel like common sense tells you that this is a Texas LSU battle, but apparently Boiler Up is making some way here. But Berryman has some family in the Austin area. Again, he plays in Monroe. That's where he lives. That's where he plays his high school football. But he has some ties to the Austin area, so hopefully that will help the Texas cause. But maybe a three-horse race now, oddly enough, Texas, LSU, and Purdue for Dylan Berryman. Number 3, we'll stick to the defensive front, but we'll move things outside a little bit. How about four-star edge Jamarian Carlton, a name we've talked about a lot here on Locked On Longhorns, high four-star. Some have him listed as an edge. Some have him listed as a defensive lineman. He's about 240 pounds. So to me, he's more of an outside guy, 6'4", 6'5", about 240. He is a top 50 player in the nation. And he's a local kid. He plays his high school football at Temple, less than an hour north from Austin. This is a big-time player close to home. You want to keep your top talent in state. You really want to keep the Central Texas talent in Central Texas. The Longhorns were the favorite early on in this recruitment. I still think they are, but according to some insiders, the battle has closed a little bit, and the gap has shrunk a little bit for Texas. Hopefully, this official visit helps get Texas back into the good graces of Jamarian Carlton. Maybe that's a bad way to say it. I don't think Texas has fallen out of favor or anything like that. But again, feels like some other schools have closed the gap. Carlton has visits planned to A&M and Baylor later this month. So it seems like it's going to be an in-state battle for Carlton, but he also is garnering some national interest as well. Again, he's a top 5 defensive lineman in the country. Whether you put him at edge or defensive lineman, he is highly, highly regarded by the ranking services, including our own here with Locked On Sports. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that'd be a big get for Texas. Again, trying to keep the local kids here local. And last but not least, number 4, I promised you 4 names. We're delivering. We'll switch to the offensive side of the football with another guy that we've talked about a number of times on this show. 4-star running back Xavier Crowell. He's a household name for you recruiting junkies at this point. From the state of Alabama, Bama is seemingly the big favorite in this recruitment, but Texas obviously has a chance. He's taking a visit this weekend. That means the Longhorns aren't out of it by any stretch. The number 2 running back in the nation visited Georgia this past weekend. I mean, look, Texas, Alabama, and Georgia, those have been the teams with the best recruiting classes in the country. Maybe you throw Ohio State in there too. Kind of feels like those have been the top 4 in the nation in terms of recruiting in these last 4 or 5 years. So you are going up against the biggest of dogs, no pun intended, with Georgia being in the mix with this recruitment battle. Hopefully, Chad Scott can make some things happen as the new running backs coach for Texas. But again, Alabama kid, Alabama seemingly the front runner. The insider update, we're wondering if Texas can put a dent into the momentum that Alabama has. Georgia tried last weekend. We'll see if Texas can get it done. Crowell, who reclassified into this class of 2026, was actually on campus in April on an unofficial visit. That was the first time he met Chad Scott in person. It seems like the visit went well. Again, he's coming back for an OV, so that's a good sign. The assumption is Alabama, though, still has the lead. So we'll see how this weekend goes on the 40 acres. So there you go. 4 insider updates on 4 huge names that will be in Austin, Texas, USA America this weekend. All right, one segment left on today's show. I hate that we're talking about the Texas baseball offseason, but that's where we are right now. We've got some roster attrition, some transfer portal news, good and bad for Texas baseball. We'll get to it coming up next right here on Locked On Longhorns. Welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. Some Texas baseball news, notes, and nuggets to wrap things up. It sucks that we're not talking about a super regional. I would love to be previewing one of those right now, but unfortunately, here we are. And, with the offseason comes attrition. We're already starting to see some of it with this Texas baseball roster, even though the season ended just 4 days ago. Look, attrition happens. It happens every year. It happens everywhere, and it tends to happen a little bit more close to a coaching change, especially the year after a coaching change. A lot of the guys on the 2025 club were recruited and signed by the previous regime. So, look, this happens. I mean, maybe the guys didn't see eye to eye with the new coaching staff. Maybe they didn't do enough to impress the new coaching staff. Maybe the new staff told them, hey, there might not be a ton of playing time for you here moving forward. Whatever. There are plenty of reasons why guys portal. It's not just a Texas thing. So I don't think this should be cause for concern for any Longhorn baseball fan out there. But, if you follow this team on Twitter, if you follow the insiders on Twitter, if you follow this show, you now know that 13 players have hit the portal over these last few days for Texas baseball. Now, most of the names are guys who didn't play a whole lot this season, but there have been a couple of decent sized names who have portaled, including Tommy Farmer the fourth. He's probably the biggest contributor from this year's club who has entered the transfer portal. He started 51 games the last 2 years combined at Texas, hit 249, won the left field job out of camp this season, kind of got relegated to the fourth outfield spot once Max Ballou came back from injury and once Jonah Williams kind of burst on the scene in the second half of the year. Now, Tommy Farmer didn't start any of the regional games this past weekend. So, again, he was sort of relegated to that fourth outfield spot. Great athlete, incredible defender. I mean, he's a gold glove caliber defender. So, wherever he ends up, they're going to be getting a great defensive player in the outfield. But yeah, this is a guy who, again, started a lot of games for Texas. He played every game when Max Ballou was out for Texas this season. A really well-liked and respected guy in that clubhouse. He will more than likely be playing the rest of his college baseball elsewhere. A couple of other names worth noting. Ace Whitehead. He didn't pitch this year because he had off-season shoulder surgery last off-season, so he missed all of 2025, but he was a big part of the team in 2024. I was hoping he was going to be a big part of things in 2026. Pitched 67 innings, started a few games in Big 12 play for the Longhorns in their final year of the Big 12, and also played outfield as well. So a two-way player, a local kid. Wish Ace Whitehead, wish Tommy Farmer, wish all of these guys the best. I think that goes without saying. But Whitehead, yeah, a guy that I was hoping was going to have some sort of role on this team moving forward, but he is headed elsewhere. A couple of other names. Easton Toomis did not pitch this year, but a guy who played a decent amount in David Pierce's final season. Oliver Service, a backup catcher, started one game this year, played in 5 games this year. Those are just a few of the names. Again, Tommy Farmer the fourth, clearly the most important contributor who's leaving, and Ace Whitehead, another name that I know a bunch of Texas baseball fans know. They've known him really since his high school days at Lampasas. Those guys are in the portal. But I teased it. The portal news isn't all bad. And I think more often than not, the portal news will be good for Texas baseball in the Jim Schloss-Nagel era. I mean, look at what they got last year with Jared Spencer. That was the big portal pickup for Texas. He ended up being the ace of this club, obviously, before he got hurt with that season-ending injury. Ethan Mendoza, this team's leadoff hitter and starting second baseman, he was a portal pickup. Schloss was able to do that without having coached a single game at Texas. Now people know that, oh, this Schloss guy can coach, and Texas can win with Jim Schloss-Nagel. They just won the SEC in year one in the league, and obviously year one of this Schloss era, excuse me. So I think there's going to be a lot of good news coming soon in the portal for Texas baseball. Yesterday, the Longhorns picked up a commitment from Wichita State transfer Josh Livingston. Spent the last 2 years with the Shockers, 15 home runs this year, 11 home runs in 2024. He hit 284 with an OPS over 950 this past season, 2025. 15 home runs, 48 RBIs, 10 doubles. He's a great fielder as well. Only 4 errors in 2 years. He can play first base. He can play third base. He's got a fielding percentage of .990. Maybe he's your Kimball Schuessler replacement. Schuss is obviously a huge loss. He's out of college eligibility. He can't come back. You need somebody to play first base. Maybe Josh Livingston is the plan right there. Livingston, a Texas kid, played his high school ball at Prosper, so he gets to come back to his home state. 1 year left of college eligibility, but I think he's a plug-and-play starter somewhere on the infield for Texas. That's a great first pickup. Again, minus 13, plus 1 right now. I think those numbers will even out a little bit in terms of the portal, but I like the Livingston get, and I don't think Texas is anywhere close to done when it comes to adding talent for next year's team. All right. We'll keep you posted on everything that happens with that right here on Locked On Longhorns. We'll keep you posted with everything going on with the University of Texas. Texas football, Texas baseball, basketball, softball, volleyball. We got it all. Never a dull moment on the 40 acres. We're talking about everything right here on Locked On Longhorns. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank you all for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Portal Show with Brian Smith. He's got you covered. All of the portal news you need to know, all of the recruiting news you need around the world of college football, so you can always be the most informed fan wherever you are. Find the portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Again, hopefully we're talking about a national championship for Texas softball on tomorrow's show. We will continue to set the table for the big Texas football recruiting weekend as well. But that's going to do it for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, comment, all of those great things. Until next time, horns up, mic's off. We'll see y'all soon on Locked On Longhorns.